night, forever presidential candidate Marco Rubio went to bed outraged that a woman dared to call out Republicans. Rubio, who has carried Trump's water in a tiny little bottle for the last 4 years, was critical of President-elect Biden's call for unity after his campaign manager, Jennifer O'Malley Dillon, questioned Republican motives by using an expletive. Earlier this month, Biden defended his decision to nominate Neera Tanden to OMB after Senate Republicans warned she might not be confirmed because they found her tweets about them just too offensive. What the duck? I guess, I love that duck. I guess they've just been asleep for the past 4 years. Joining me now is former Senator Barbara Boxer of California, Jason Johnson, professor of journalism and politics at Morgan State University. Because you have a doctorate, Jason Johnson, we wanted you to be involved in a segment that's kind of co-hosted by a duck. And so we want to make sure that you keep your head on straight. You know what I mean? We got to keep you humble. So let's start out by talking about the whiny. Marco Rubio, who, by the way, has not tweeted about the Russian attack, cyber attack on the United States, even though he is the chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, tweeted, Biden talks about unity and healing, but you want to know what they really think? Read about how the person he wants is the next White House deputy chief of staff called Republicans in Congress a bunch of effers. And here's what Jennifer O'Malley Dillon actually said in Glamour magazine. In the primary, people would mock him, Biden. Like, you think you can work with Republicans? I'm not saying they're a bunch of effers. Mitch McConnell is terrible. No, I'm not saying they're not a bunch of effers. Mitch McConnell is terrible. But this sense that you couldn't wish for that, you couldn't wish for the bipartisan deal, he rejected that. So she's saying, I'm not saying they're effers, but I'm not saying you shouldn't work with them. Is that enough, in your view, for Marco Rubio to go on a tweet storm?
No, Joy. And look, this is a guy who, if you ask your random person in the street, more people know him by his rap name, Lil Marco, than actually know where he's a senator from. Like, he's been attacked by mean language by the very president that he's holding water for. But this is what happens with the Republican Party. Whenever they are out of power, whenever they don't feel that they can control every single aspect of American society, they engage in these ridiculous, disingenuous, hypocritical, bad faith arguments, right? They got mad about Al Franken, and then 2 years later, they voted for Donald Trump. They get mad about profligate spending by Democrats, and then they bust the budget. They've got more bad faith than Judas. It's ridiculous. And I think what's important to remember is that this is just going to continue as they realize more and more that the language that Democrats have been holding in for all these years is going to be very common once Biden gets into office.
Well, I mean, and, you know, Senator Boxer, you didn't have Marco Rubio go on a tweet storm or start tweeting Bible verses, which is his other favorite thing to do, when Congressman Ted Yoho called Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez an effing B, right? He didn't have any problem with that. He didn't have any problem with Donald Trump's vulgarity, but suddenly he wants to be the morality police. Maybe he should call his buddy Donald Trump and tell him not to try to veto the NDAA and basically defund the military. That's the other thing that's going on in the lame duck. Your thoughts?
My thoughts are that Marco Rubio and all of these guys who just are the puppets of Trump, they're just hypocritical babies. You know, grow up. We know what they say when they're behind closed doors. And for them to act so shocked when someone makes a comment like that in these days when, you know, everything you say is on social media, the whole thing's absurd. But I have to say, I'm glad you're looking at lame ducks because lame ducks are grumpy. And Marco Rubio is grumpy. He thought he'd be able to run. Now Trump says he's running. You know, he's grumpy because he's around people who are retiring and don't want to be there. He doesn't want to be there. He wasn't in the room where all the work happened, and he's jealous of that. So I could tell you, having gone through more lame ducks than I care to remember, it is one grumpy time. And they ought to just understand that people are hurting, and they ought to get busy and do their job and stop worrying about somebody that hurts their feelings.
Well, and, you know, it is remarkable to me, Jason, that, you know, in the lame duck in 2010, that Congress that had gotten wiped out because they had the courage to vote for health care, and a lot of them lost their seats. They said, you know what we're going to do in this lame duck? We're going to end Don't Ask, Don't Tell. We're going to pass a START treaty. That was one of the most historic lame duck sessions in U.S. history, really since the Civil Rights Movement, when there was also huge pushes to pass progressive legislation that actually helped people. We are now deep into this lame duck, and there is still no decent bill that matches what the House tried to pass for people who are literally 8 million new people in poverty. That isn't getting done, and if it does get done, it's going to be a baby bill. What is this about?
Right. Well, it's also, Joy, it's about distraction, right? Like these guys want to give $600 to people to survive when you've got 900,000 people asking for unemployment in a week. If there's anyone who has right to use profanity right now, it's all of the American people out there. It's the 300,000 plus people whose families are suffering through a loss, someone who's not going to be, to Joe Biden's phrase, someone who's not going to be at the table this Christmas, not going to be at the table at Thanksgiving. It's the 900,000 who are applying for unemployment, while Marco Rubio, the most offensive thing to him is not skyrocketing COVID rates in Florida. It's not the fact that you've got people who are being evicted and kicked out of their homes. It's not the fact that the Russians are attacking us. It's not the fact that your sitting president tried to cheat. It's not the fact that your sitting president insulted you. The most terrible thing in the world is that a Latinx congresswoman from the Bronx, exists, and that these sorts of people are out there and empowered. So he wants to fight with Alexandria Cortez, and he wants to get mad about women who are empowered in the Biden administration. That's more offensive to him than hundreds of millions of people who are suffering across this country.
And I think that's an important point, Senator Boxer, because they seem to get much more tweaked by women who say things and who in their mind step out of line than by anything that any man does, including Vladimir Putin or Donald Trump.
Well, I'm smiling with a wry smile, because if I told you how many times they called on me to resign, I can't even tell you. So, you know what? Let's just focus on reality. And, Jason points it out. We are in a dire situation in our nation. I look at the clips from my state of California, my great, magnificent state. I literally cry. People are waiting in line, I should say, to get food. People who never, ever thought they'd have to do it. And when you ask them about it, they just tear up and say, I don't have a choice. And meanwhile, they're grumpy in a lame duck, quack, quack. Bottom line, Mitch McConnell doesn't want to do anything. And the only reason he's looking at doing something, as you said, a baby step, is because he's scared that his two beloved candidates who are corrupt, who are running in Georgia, okay, who wouldn't know what the word want even means, or what the word needy even means. And he's worried that people are catching on. And so he may put something forward. But everyone who is left out of the room where it happens, I know this, they want to be in the room where it happens. They want their favorite thing in there. And we're stymied. And they better hurry up and get help to people, or we're not going to look like America. We're not.
Yeah. This is going to be quite a lame duck session, so I'm glad we have this new segment. Glad you guys kicked it off with us, a perfect pair. Former Senator Barbara Boxer, Jason Johnson, friends both, thank you very much. And up next,